Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Ōtorohanga Community Board meeting, Monday the 8th of June at 4 p.m. Okay, we'll just start with our opening for today. By believing and trusting, by having faith and hope, by looking and searching, by listening and hearing, by working and striving together, by patience and perseverance, by all being done with compassion, we will succeed. Thank you. Okay, so apologies. Today we have apologies from Katrina Christensen. She has asked for her apologies to be put forward. So I would like to ask for a mover that those be accepted. Thank you, Brendan, and a seconder. Thanks, Leanne. Confirm whether a leave of absence is sought. Okay. All right, so just moving on to the public forum, I would like to invite Liz Cowan to come and speak to us today. Liz has a presentation that she would like to put to us. And I just would like to remind our community board today that any questions we may have, we'll do at the end, and they're for clarification only. And we're not going to be debating anything today. We're just here to hear what Liz has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm here to acknowledge the amazing work that has been done at the museum to prepare that site with the new stormwater drains, etc. What you can see there is the, if you like, the landing pad. No, it's not the right word. The site for the little Rewa school. And oops, have I done the right one? And you know, look, oops, no, next one. No, I'm not, appear not to be doing the right thing. I'm sorry, Kai. I'm not getting, it's not clicking through. Oh, okay.
Great.
Right. I've gone a little too far.
That one?
Yes, yes, yes. So looking from the road, we can see the new site. The grass is growing. It's growing even more than it was. But what has become a little bit, this is the, just so you can see, whoops, that is the Rewa school, which will be relocated, and we have the funding all in hand. And just for your information, that's the interior. It's actually very sound, 1917 heart remo and matai. But what has, the next photo, it was a fairly mammoth job. That was the oak stump that I believe that the digger driver took him an hour to chip and smash and get rid of. But, you know, it's wonderful, the infrastructure that's now gone in there. And as a byproduct of this amazing work, all the spare soil has been spread out at the back and created this very, very nice level site. That's looking back. And oops, next one. And you can see this is from the back door of the courthouse. You know, you could walk through. That nasty piece of wood is something we need to get rid of as it's a health and safety measure. But the power pole is actually interesting. That's 100 years old. It's an original Ōtorohanga power pole. But our thinking was it would be wonderful if we could use that site, which is now substantially levelled, perhaps to put in some seating, some tables, some shade, even some sympathetic planting, because we noticed that, you know, the medical centre staff often go and sit across the road on those tables. We get visitors. It's a safe, sheltered site. And if there was some, perhaps, you know, seating, some shade structure, perhaps even a bit of sympathetic planting. One of the things that could be planted, which would be a wonderful addition, would be some of the flax, the harakeke cultivars that are wonderful for weaving. And there are already pockets of selected cultivars around the community that our local weavers use. And again, that would be a wonderful resource area. Another, so it's just another photo of the general area. One of the other thoughts is that it would be, somebody suggested, wouldn't it be nice to have almost some heritage signs there? And I'll just give you an example of a few things that are particularly interesting for our visitors at the museum. I mean, we have these inside, but here's just some possibilities of what could be done in that space. You know, we're often asked, where do the buildings come from? And we've actually found a photo that's from about 1914. And the heritage buildings we've got came from those sites. Another thing that is hugely interesting for people, they ask, was that courthouse always here? Well, no, of course it wasn't. It was opposite Mitre 10, and some local ingenuity transported it there. And that's an interesting story on its own. And then we have things like probably the second earliest photo of the town, 1887. I just noticed from our Facebook page, these are the things that get a lot of interest. So 1903, you can start to see Maniapoto Street in the middle there, still grazing horses on it. The main street at that stage was Tuhoro, because it linked with the railway station. That now we're going to about pre-1910, when the railway station was still on the other side of the tracks. A little bit later, yes, still 1910. Before 1910, the railway station is on the other side of the tracks. And then we come to about 1914. You can see this courthouse in its original position, just there next to the right of that poplar. Then we go to, that one is, I think, 1921. That's 1939. Whoops, that's an aerial from a bit later. This one I posted recently and I could not believe the feedback. Nearly 700 people have liked it, commented on it, and noted that Kakapuka was bare to the top. So that tells you that since 1956, all of that growth there has been either regenerating native forest or plantings. That's what happens when you leave the land alone. But it's just some thoughts of, some of the resources we have. 1958, at the height of the flood, and believe it or not, that was February. By November, that's how the town looked. That's how quickly they recovered. I mean, it was an amazing effort. And then these photos I've recently discovered are probably the very oldest photos of Ōtorohanga taken at Haerehuka. Those are the great chiefs and their families, and so it's just, we do have a wealth of really fascinating information, and we'd just love to see that area perhaps being used for, the public, our visitors, the local, if there's a soccer game going on, or if people would like to come and have a picnic or something, it would just be perhaps an area that could be synthetically planted with, say, low maintenance natives. You have living in this district probably one of the leading ecologists in the area. She's the deputy chair of the Native Forest Restoration Trust, Rosemary Davison. She has helped Janaya Waitiri, who's a fabulous weaver, source, the very best harakeke for weaving. And there's some just wonderful resources that I think could be used to develop that space. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Bye. Yes. Absolutely. I'm actually done. Thank you so much. Thank you for going on. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, my fellow board members, do we have any questions for Liz? No? Well, thank you very much for coming and presenting to us today. We appreciate it. We will, we will come back to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you
Thanks
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So just moving on through the agenda, we don't have any late items for today. Do we have any declarations of a conflict of interest? No? Okay. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes for the 4th of May Community Board meeting. I'd like to ask for a mover and a seconder, and I just want to advise of some minor amendments. So there are a couple of minor amendments to the May minutes. One being is under the apologies for Brendan, his name is not spelt correctly. And also we need the inclusion of the opening and closing karakia or words of wisdom, please. So can I have someone to move that?
I'll approve that.
Thank you, Craig. And someone to second? Sorry, who seconded that? Oh, thank you. And then where did put that? Sorry, my apologies.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Under the apologies, Brendan, it's got an A in it, page 12, up from May. Okay, so regarding the minutes, I need to call for a vote these. Call for a vote again. Oh, I see. Okay, so I need to put it to the meetings. I apologize, I'm still learning some of these things. So can I call? Now I call for a second. Okay, right. All in favour? Against? Carried. Sorry. Okay, very good. Right, moving on. Okay. So today we have a report for us to consider, the older person's housing policy. And I would like to invite Graham to come and present his report.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. So, first of all, sorry, is that a bit loud? I'll go. Yeah. How's that? All right, okay, yeah. Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to apologise that Kerry Downs wrote this report and she's away this week, so I'm going to present it. So go easy on me. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just quickly go through and just and summarise the key points. But I think firstly, before I start, the important thing to remember is that this is just a draft policy. It's been written and brought to the boards for their recommendations to council. So if there's things that you are not happy with in it and you want changed, then that's fine. It's just a draft. That's a point in time. Okay, so in saying that, the board's providing input only. The final decision will be made by council. It goes to council on the 30th of June. We took the policy to the Kapia Community Board last Thursday. They had some minor changes in terms of recommendations, mainly around the increase in rental, which I can go through when we get to that point. And it doesn't really matter if the recommendations from OCB are different to KCB. Hopefully, we'll confirm that when we get through council. Okay, so what changed this policy? The last time it was reviewed was in 2023. It's now become updated. And since then, we've had a report from Veros. They were contracted to do some work around a review of delivery of the service and also an asset condition assessment. So there was a number of recommendations that come out of that report, and this was workshopped with council, and I think there were some members of the board at that workshop as well. So the current situation, we have 28 units, including 6 in Kapia. Older persons housing is a combined activity with Ōtorohanga and Kapia, so it sits in one account called older persons housing. We don't have a separate account for one for Kapia and one for Ōtorohanga, so the income all goes into one line, and the expenditure is combined. That portfolio is self-funded, okay, so there's no rates input goes into that account at all, and the account holds a balance, so any underspend or overspend in that older person's housing account is just carried forward to the next year. Currently, at the moment, the overall rentals are set at approximately 61% of market across Ōtorohanga and Kapia. And you'll note in the report that the market assessment is different for Kapia and Ōtorohanga. So when they do those market assessments, and I think you can go into the tenancy website, it's very localised, and so different parts of the country, depending on demand and other factors, will have a different market assessment. So the key proposed changes were to clarify council's role as an affordable housing provider, or to outsource the function. When we workshop that through council, the direction that we got is that they wanted to keep that in-house. Some councils, when they've reviewed their older persons housing stock, have decided to contract that out to places like Habitat for Humanity, that are in some ways probably better positioned, to run it. We do pretty well with our staff that we've got, and we're pretty fortunate that our staff have a good relationship with our older people up there, and we're often called up to do lots of different things. So one of the proposed changes was to increase the eligibility for 60 to 65. So this was a recommendation from Veros. It's in the policy. We've got some flexibility there, so at the chief executive's discretion, and so it was largely just to bring it into line with the reviews that they had done on other councils and their pensioning housing stock, and I think we're the only one that had a eligibility of 60. So I'm not 100% sure, but we have one, maybe two that are under 65 at the moment. But it's certainly just looking forward to sort of raise that level up to 65. The other proposed change was to link rents to a market benchmark and then gradually move it up to 80% of market. And so that's one of the, I guess, the key drivers here. And I guess it's a target over a long period. It doesn't. We're not looking at moving it up to that in the short term, but it's to kind of I guess make our housing stock more sustainable. If it is self-funding, then we need to be able to generate enough revenue to at least maintain those flats to a reasonable standard. Traditionally, what's happened is that when people have moved out, we've used that as an opportunity to give them a little bit of a refresh. But they're old, they're all built in the 60s, and they will need some work in time. The rentals have only been reviewed once in the last 6 years. When we did review them 3 years ago, we hadn't reviewed them for quite some time, and it was quite, because it hadn't been reviewed for some time, and the increase was quite substantial at the time. We had wins involved, and we endeavoured at that time to make sure that everybody that qualified for the accommodation supplement was getting it. There were a number that qualified that weren't that weren't getting it. You know, and some of them it was quite difficult unless they had sort of family there that could help them, you know, make applications to WINS. And so we did our best to get everybody on it. There were some people, as I recall, this was Kerry's predecessor that did all this that didn't qualify. You know, through their income or asset threshold. Yeah, so I guess in terms of any increase in rental, the impact on the tenants is that are eligible for the accommodation supplement, then that does go some way to subsidise it. It wouldn't, depending on how much we increase the rentals, it wouldn't. It doesn't subsidise all of it, but council would work directly with tenants and WINS and provide them with the support. Any increase in rentals, we have to give 60 days notice. The financial impact on that, obviously there's an impact on the residents, but I guess long-term sustainability of those units, it's gives us that, and it gives us a surplus in the account to support maintenance and upgrade and future investments. So yeah, happy to take any questions, and as I say, you know, we can any recommendations we can take forward to council.
Thank you, Graham. Do my fellow board members have questions?
How often, or are the dwellings regularly inspected? Like, I'm speaking from the next property management point of view with 15 years experience. We did inspections every 3 months. When are they inspected?
Yeah. Just I'm looking at Mark here because it's his team that inspects them.
Yeah, thanks. I probably can't give you the exact timing of it, Brendan, but I know that Jared's team do regular inspections, plus manage all the maintenance that comes in through there. So I would imagine it's within, you know, probably twice every 6 months, so possibly that 3 months. But I'm only guessing. I can come back to you on the exact.
Oh, that's good. 3 monthly, 4 monthly, that's good, because that's a way of building up rapport with the tenants, and then regular reporting of maintenance before it gets. Leaks are obviously, you might have a bit of insight into plumbing issues to resolve, get on top of them before they get too bad. Thank you.
Can I just confirm the outside maintenance for the units, mowing of lawns, trees, what have you, is that taken up by the tenants or is it done by the council?
So the lawns are taken care of by our lawn mowing contractor, and each tenant is responsible for their little garden out the front or out the back. I think most of them have some form of vegetable garden fixture at the back of their units. But as far as lawns and probably council owned gardens, that's maintained by the council contractors.
So my next question, and I have a couple, what will happen in 3 years' time if this is adopted by the council? Will this then be reviewed again for another potential increase, or will this be?
Yeah, I think what I'm sort of looking from the board is what percentage of market we would like to move to, you know, and then you know, any increase is probably going to get us closer to that percentage of market, and I think, you know, probably how long we want to take to get to that percentage of market. So what happened in Kāwhia, it got considerable debate out there, and then they took an option of at the moment, the 6 units out there are paying 57% of market. So they only decided that they wanted to go to 60% of market and then review it again next year. So when that goes to council, council may say, well, no, that's not enough. You know, we need to probably have an indication of where we want to get to, you know. And I think probably what's happened is that historically we haven't reviewed it often enough, you know, and so we're best to go with a little bit each year and get us closer to that percentage of market. I think percentage of market is probably a better indicator than CPI. Yeah, where there be some years where the market may not move as much as CPI. You know, so, but it's generally a better indication than it's actually comparing. Yeah, in real terms.
Can I just add to that through you, Jed? What we're hoping is that policy will stand the test of time. We're hoping that by putting policy in place with council setting an indication or a policy direction for where we want to, how we want to set rents, then the annual discussion just becomes what is the market, and in line with this policy, this is what the rents are. We would always give council an opportunity to look at those because we set fees and charges every year, but we're hoping to set a policy direction so we don't have to keep having a discussion on that every year unless something significant changes. You know, and when we had the COVID, you know, pandemic several years ago, and we decided to freeze all the rents at that time. So it could be something extraordinary that would need to happen to change that.
And it may be that you think an acceptable level is 70% or 75%. I think, you know, if you've been following some of the things that have happened in the news lately, where some councils have come under fire for increasing their older purposes, but they'd go on to 100% of market, you know. So you know, it's just trying to find that middle ground.
I've got a clarification question and then just a question. Can I just check that I'm understanding this right? That so people who aren't receiving the accommodation supplement aren't eligible for housing? Is that correct?
Yeah, that was what we were proposing in the new policy, Taylor. But, you know, then, you know, so like I said, if you don't think that that's acceptable, it was just to kind of, you know, by putting that in, we don't have to go through all of the measuring their assets and income and things. If they qualify for the accommodation supplement, then they qualify. But we can go outside of that, you know, if it's reasonable, you know. We're kind of like, we're trying to get away from people that own another house somewhere, you know, that they need to be close, but it's at the chief executive's discretion. You know, and we get all sorts of different applicants, and it's just to kind of give us a benchmark, you know, in terms of where we need to be. Yeah.
I guess playing devil's advocate for that statement is that if people are receiving the accommodation supplement, then there could be a group of people who aren't quite eligible but have no other options that are missing out. And people who are receiving the supplement could have a slightly higher priced property that they could be renting. So maybe we're not quite, maybe we're missing a little bit of people who are maybe not, who don't quite meet that criteria of the accommodation supplement, but are still really in need. Not, you know, not the people that have properties elsewhere, but yeah. That's
a big. I mean, like, I think, you know, there was a section that Kerry had quite a struggle with trying to get something right, and so she pulled apart a number of different policies from other councils, and so obviously, you know, see other councils use that as a measure, but you know, it's just as I said, it's just a starting point. You know?
Yeah. And then my other question was just around, like, again, it's probably more of a statement, is under eligibility criteria on point 27, applicants must have a genuine need for council's older person housing. I just feel like that's a very broad statement, like who's sort of making those calls based on that statement, because yeah, you could have sort of two people in front of you who both are in need of property, but who decides? Yeah, there's only one house left. Who decides who's worse off than the other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And look, that's a problem even now, where we have people sitting on the waiting list and it's almost like you're playing God, and there's some people in real need, and so yeah, it's not easy, Yeah, we look at other things too, like are they local, have they got family here that can support them, all those sort of things too that kind of factor into it, as well as just, it's not just assets and income, so it's
Sorry, just to clarify, because I'm sure it's in here, do you have to be currently residing in this area to be eligible for a unit?
no, you don't, but what sort of happens in the past is that we've got we might have someone that's living in Fielding, say, but they've got a daughter that lives in Ōtorohanga, and so they want to move here to be close to family, and so there's kind of like there's a bit of give and take, in terms of where they are. So while they may not be living here, and they may have ties with Ōtorohanga from a long time ago, and they want to come home. And so, yeah, it's not easy, trying to.
Just point 29. I think God, she's not God, but she's one of the disciples. Tani, you have the ultimate discretion, don't you? Yeah. Yeah. And then there's just on best advice from both parties or whatever, parenting parties. What 29 says Tani has the discretion. I'm comfortable with that.
So I have another question. Sorry, I have a few. This is more just information for me to better understand this. I was curious about the average time spent in a unit, or for want of a better word, turnover, in terms of how much time a resident may spend in one of our units. At 6 months, 12 months, 5 years.
Yeah, I think we've got quite a few long-term ones there, that have been there some time. I would be guessing that most of them would have been there at least 5 years. Yeah, yeah.
Which leads me into my next question, if I may. Curtains.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw your email there. Now that in our current policy, I think we provide curtains, and so yeah, I just took Kerry's lead on that. That she took that out, and curtains, as you know, if your own home, are quite an expense. And so if council were to provide all of the units with curtains, there's a cost. There's a cost to that actually still comes out of their rentals, effectively. So it'd be interesting in discussion on that. I mean, like curtains are generally a chattel, and so they you wouldn't normally provide. There's curtains there now, eh?
Yeah, I can't, sorry, not through the chair. I can't recall us replacing curtains when we've refurbished the units. They're generally being supplied by the tenants or left over by the previous tenants. So, but there's 28 units. There's probably 4 sets of curtains per unit. Would soon add up if we took responsibility for the curtains. But obviously at council's discretion, if that's something they want to pursue.
I guess for me, my concern is that it feels like, as a general rule, there's some older and often vulnerable residents staying in our units who are there because for various reasons funds don't necessarily permit them to be elsewhere. Curtains are a bit of a cost burden, and my concern is if we have people on a very fixed and not very high income, curtains, thermal ones, provide warmth. Especially, I mean, they're not a requirement for landlords, and they're not a requirement under healthy homes, but they certainly provide a level of warmth and also privacy, which I think would be really important. And given that the turnover in terms of the tenants are staying for, say, 5 years, what have you, I mean, surely a set of curtains for a home would last at least that long?
So I've just, through you, Chair, I've just messaged Jared, said you might want to come down. No, he said most tenants have them, never been an issue. Most tenants bring their own. There's curtain bank as well. So if they've ever needed to get some, they've gone to the curtain bank. Yeah. I guess all this comes out of the very limited funds we end up with, so in terms of making recommendations about rentals, if we're going to increase what we provide, what we do, we're already doing lawns and gardens and all sorts of other things. It all costs money, water rates, all of that sort of stuff gets covered. And at the moment, we're not even at market rent. We're 20% off it. So we can keep providing things, but it all has to come out of that limited budget that we have from the rent.
Effectively, they're paying for it anyway. Whether they pay for it themselves up front or whether we pay for it out of their rentals. It's still the only income that comes into those accounts from the tenants. So there's no rates input in.
Questions? Any more questions?
Yeah, I think the one thing we'd like from the board is around that. What percentage of market rental would you be comfortable with us moving to over time? The suggestion there is 80%, but I mean, is the
Can I call? There you go. Something was said today, we had a meeting with Brad Olsen, and through that conversation, something stuck with me a little bit. So I just wanted to share that thought. And it was that if we keep our rent low, there are other ratepayers in our community who are also on fixed incomes, if they're pensioners, who are then filling that gap and subsidising with rates these rents. So yeah, that was a thought that really sort of stuck with me. Obviously, these people are in need of the affordable housing, but there are other people in our community who are on fixed rates as well. So I, from that thought, was quite happy to sort of increase it periodically throughout the time with the recommendations that are in here. Yeah.
My little thought. I'm not averse to 80%, but my preference, and this is just from a straight mathematics point of view, we're at 61%, maybe 60%. If you look down to 75% and 5, 5, 5, 60, 65, 70, 75, that's nice and round. And then at the end of the day, our residents are only paying 3/4 of market rent plus getting lawns provided. That's just from a really, that's an easy maths point of view, really. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think the work that Veros did, that was about the average around the country. It was around 75% of market. Some were higher, some were lower. We were certainly towards the lower end in terms of where we were.
I think the thing is, like in the scenario we got here, is that first whack from 61 to 70 is might be a bit high. Whereas it's that you, like you correctly said in your summary of the board, we can get a reasonable timeline to implement to reach our target is very relevant. And I think an easy one is this 5, 5, 5.
Okay, do we have any further questions? No? Okay, thank you, Graham. So my fellow community board members, do we wish to accept option 1 or option 2 as per the report, or would we like to suggest a third option to put forward as a recommendation? Okay, I'd like to call for an adjournment for 5 minutes, please. We'll be back in 5.
All right. Okay.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and we are back at 4:55. Okay, so we're currently discussing the older person's housing policy, and we are going to look at option 1, and I would like to call a board member McNeil for a proposal on amendment to 7.3.
Sure, thank you. Madam Chair,
Thank you.
I'd like to move that the Ōtorohanga Community Board recommend to Ōtorohanga District Council update the older person's housing policy to incorporate the recommendations from the Ōtorohanga District Council Older Persons Housing Review and take into consideration the following matters. A rent benchmark totaling 75% of market rent, with equal increases being raised to 65% for the 2026-27 year, to 70% for the 2027-28 year, and to 75% for the 28-29 of market rent across the next financial years.
Maybe just a clarity there, if we just say a target rent benchmark, so then we just totally clear.
Thank you. Okay, so Brendan, are you moving that?
I'd like to move that, yes.
I'd like to second that. Okay, and all in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, contrary carried. Thank you very much for your presentation, Graham, and for answering all of our questions. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving through the agenda. Okay. We are now moving to workshops. Okay, sorry, just let me get myself organized. Okay, so I need to click. Oh, goodness me, I'm ahead of myself today. Right. Okay. So we're just going to work our way through board projects underway from the last triennium. Do we have any updates, Mark, on the dog agility park or the outdoor?
The last meeting.
Okay, cool, thank you. Right, so recommendation by the board to Ōtorohanga District Council for the 2026-2027 year. That's already done, so we don't need to do anything for that, do we? Cool. We don't have anything to note under the General Reserve Fund or the Property Reserve Fund or the Discretionary Fund. Okay. No requests for funding have been received. Okay, board member updates. I'm just going to go around the room, starting with Leanne. Do you have any updates for us, Leanne?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
We did have a lovely, like lunch about 3 weeks ago at my house. And we had a wonderful time. We had lots of yummy food. Right, we're gonna do it again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and also, I've been working alongside Tanya about Park Run. See if
Oh,
we can get
fantastic.
That running. Thanks to Tanya. Yeah. So we're heading to Hamilton this Saturday. I'm not running it, walking it. The girls are. I'm going to observe and volunteer, see how it all goes. Since I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, the park run is an international movement, 5 kilometres every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. There's about 70 park runs in New Zealand now. And it's a formal process that has to be approved. The park run has to be approved by Park Run, the international kind of group. Yeah, so there's quite a lot to it. So we're just in the early stages of looking into a course and getting it set up. Get your running shoes ready.
Thank you, Leanne. Taylor.
Thank you. Yes, also was late, but went to the potluck, which was lovely. And we talked about our spirit animals, which was good. And I've also attended the morning tea for the closing off of our weather event earlier this month, last month, sorry. And workshops and long-term plan workshops, our last council meeting. And then today, we had an economic briefing with Brad Olson, or Bad News Brad. Although that was quite insightful. Probably lived up to his name a little bit. And then we also just had a mayor councillor catch up with Rodney, and Barbara Kruger was here too. So that was good. Now we're here.
Thank you. Craig.
No, I had nothing at all.
Thank you. Brendan.
No, nothing at this stage.
So updates from me. I also went along to the community board potluck, which was fantastic. Thank you to Leanne and for everyone for coming. We had a community board meeting last week, which was great. And also I've been keeping in touch with staff around signage for the outdoor gym, and also talking with Jared about some signage for a couple of different things. So yeah, that's pretty much from me.
What, mean sheet? Yeah. Just an idea on my head.
Sorry. Okay, moving on from board member updates. We don't have anything on the resolution register that we need to address today. There's nothing. So moving through for the closing prayer today, which I will be conducting. Did I have a volunteer for that? I did. I'm so sorry, Brendan. I shall hand over to you for that.
Certainly. Mā te whakapono, mā te tūmanako, mā te titiro, mā te whakarongo, mā te mahitahi, mā te manawanui, mā te aroha, ka taia e tautau.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so with that in mind, I'd like to close our meeting at 5:03. Thank you for everyone watching online, and thank you for everyone for coming.